me could rub shoulders because we were in the same boat of making money in the private sector before. It's quite clear where we are forgetting is that there was a key decision that has happened in Glasgow about transition of activities. And what I would love to see is that in the presentations to see the number of activities that were added from African region from 2013 to 2020, which was eligible to transition. So the fifth biggest point, because I still remember some of my friends are not here, they said, we African continent has caught up with the carbon market, and we understood the rules in 2013. You guys changed the rules from soccer to something else, right? Don't forget, the African continent is not starting from a scratch. You have 350 assets that is being carried over to Paris, which no other single major emerging economy is having, you as a continent. So out of the eligible 670 to 730 projects, 370 are coming from Africa. So you are not, nobody else has that cushion as an African continent that you are not starting from a scratch. When the new Article 6 is getting operationalized, Africa is sitting with an existing asset of 350 activities to play around in the market and capitalize. So that's the fifth benefit that I would say that the African continent is looking at in the Article 6. And the sixth one, I know that I need to go far. I think like one in terms of the benefit sharing, I think which already he has covered. And two things that I wanted to also say that where we need to look at, although I have 8 points, but I could see Jennifer wants to stop me, but I wanted to talk on two things, like beyond whether it's an African region or any other region. My simple thing to say is, like, for any financial transaction to be sound, all of us will enter a SWIFT code, right? So for carbon market to be that efficient and effective, the carbon market also has a SWIFT code, which is supplementarity, integrity, transparency, and fungibility, right? If we can ensure that in the market, all, in addition to the regulatory framework that our colleague from South Pole said, you need to have this, like in terms of all that you do has to be beyond what you could have done, that is the supplementarity, integrity in terms of MRV, baselines, etc. Then the transparency element, which World Bank was talking about, climate data trust. We as UNFCCC is generating 4 international things that needs to be there as an infrastructure, and the fungibility, because I cannot have a unit that is coming from Tanzania and a unit coming from Rwanda from same activity with similar socioeconomic condition having 2 different outcomes. So that we need to ensure as a carbon market, whether it's voluntary or in compliance. Last but not least, for African countries, for you to capitalize on, you would be using an infrastructure, because I know that many countries here have been told that you need to develop your national registry to participate in Article 6. That's a myth, it's a fallacy. You do not need to participate in a mechanism, you need a national registry. You have tasked UNFCCC to establish international registry, you need to just open an account with minimum cost. That doesn't mean that you should not engage in establishing national registry, that is good for you to do. And the last, which I want to come back to Jennifer on the last one, primarily because to, yeah, so last to say to Jennifer is because always, like, we have been branded, like you get some branding, right? So when Jennifer was starting, she said Article 6 is a compliance tool. Let me clarify, Article 6 is not a compliance tool. Article 6 is both a compliance tool and a voluntary tool. The mitigation contribution units that are established in Sharm el-Sheikh as a definition under Article 6 is going to be a competition to voluntary markets, and it will be at par with voluntary market. And then we will leave it to the market to decide whether they would go through an international mechanism that is established multilaterally, which can provide the voluntary services, or another voluntary standard. So I wanted to clarify that myth, because always people, the moment you say Article 6, it is labeled as a compliance mechanism. Don't forget it, it's a compliance and a voluntary mechanism. Thanks.
So thank you very much, and I stand corrected in that and fully agree, you know, that's what it is. It's really establishing the rules of the game, the architecture across everything. I'm not going to summarize everything that you said, and you know, the secret is not so much you give people questions, but usually when you have an answer, you give 3 messages, and then say, okay, fine, I combined 2 questions, okay, you can do 6, and yet 8. So it's great, but this is an amazing panel. 6 people, we've been struggling all week. You know, panelists confirmed that they're going to come, and we're ready, and we have 4 or 5, and then 2 show up, and this is fantastic. It's such a wealth of experience. I wish we had a whole lot more time, but I think everyone can see what the opportunities are and maybe follow up afterwards. But I hope people can stay until 11:30. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, so we have 15 minutes. What I would propose is love to hear the questions, and if that's okay with the panelists, let's take maybe 5 questions. You're not going to have to answer all the questions. We'll see how many there are. And we'll run around just in case there are that many questions, and then you can pick one, and then we'll see what the room wants to do. So if you want to ask a question, I'd really ask you to please go up to a microphone. Introduce yourself real quick. That's nice, and then.
Excellent.